but at nighttime there was like no one there or whatever. And I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't the best idea because it was so dark and there were no lights there that
And
after
then a
I
shot
was
came
like,
out of nowhere.
yeah,
and
I was like,
you should just written in the bedroom again.
yeah.
Creative Mindset by Robbie Mars.
First episode
Yep.
of the Creative Mindset podcast.
Yes.
Wesley Black, everybody. Thank you for coming, G.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
Big name, big persona.
Oh, thank
It's a big
you.
name on campus for sure.
Duh.
As you walk these corridors.
I did used to walk them.
Common, G. But yeah, no, a bit of background. Wesley Black is a dynamic artist whose range consists over multiple genres, with a couple of his songs having over 500,000 streams on Spotify. His latest song, Fall For You, was released on April 10th. Banger.
Oh, thank
as
you.
well. Banger.
I did hear you humming it earlier, so
I've been humming it all day, mate. I've been getting
it
ready.
means a lot. It means
I've
a
been
lot.
getting ready. Okay, should we start with Fall For You?
Yeah, go
Should we
ahead.
start with Fall For You?
Go
So
ahead.
you put on your Instagram
Mm-hmm.
that it was originally inspired by a poem
Correct. Yes.
that you wrote many years ago.
Yes.
So when you first wrote that poem, did you have the intention of formally releasing it as a song years later?
Oh, that's a great question. And I'd probably say no. I remember like when I first kind of, went through like a really big breakup at the time, and a lot of people would say like, oh, the upside is you're going to write like great songs from this. Everyone's like, this is like the time to write great stuff. And I was like, awesome. And to be fully honest, when I started writing songs through it, they all kind of sucked. Like I was like, the lyrics were there, but the melodies were just like, I was like, man, this is just like too kind of sad, or it's not catchy enough. And I was like, maybe it's more just like the lyrics that I need to put out right now. So I ended up just like writing a series of poems, like poems on poems and stuff like that, and just putting them into a little collection. And yeah, my goal at the time was do not open it for 5 years and just like leave it there as a little time capsule and come back to it in 5 years time. And then I don't know, I was just like hearing something, and I was like, I really liked the instrumental for Fall For You when I came across like the original demo version of it and stuff, and I was like, oh, I know I can do something special with this, but I can't think of something right now. I don't know, I was kind of stumped, but I was like, I know I've got something for it. And that's when I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna open it up and I'm just gonna go through them, and maybe one of them will come to me. And I didn't fully read like any of them or whatever, but I remember coming across that one, and the title, I think it was You Won't Have to Worry, was what it was called, which is part of that second verse that I ended up putting into there. And because the Fall For You part wasn't in the poem, it was more just like the verses. And then when I came across it, I was like, yo, these lyrics are really nice. They just, obviously they didn't really rhyme or fit like a great melody at the time, but I was like, I can steal these lyrics from myself and turn it into a song. And I just had a lot of fun doing it because it was a whole different way of writing a song, I guess. And it was like, I don't know, something satisfying about taking something from like my younger self and turning it into like something I can put out current day and still relate to and stuff. And yeah, I don't know, like I said, I haven't gone through all the other poems. I'm like, I still want to kind of wait 5 years for them, but I just like, this was like a little experiment of
It hadn't been
digging
5
in.
years?
No, it had only been, I'd say 2 or 3, like maybe 2.5, 3, something like that.
Okay.
So I'd say end of 2021, maybe start of 2022 was majority of them written stuff. And then I just kind of, I don't know, I stopped writing poems after a while when I got more into just like writing music again and stuff. And I was like, all right, leave the poems. And I was like, well, I guess I probably never
Leave the
thought about
poems.
it. Yeah, I probably never thought about it. I just did. And then
What made you open the book after only 2.5 years?
That's a great question. I don't know. I think it was, it's just, I knew something about that beat. I was like, I can do something with this instrumental, but I just didn't know what. And I was like, I need some like piercing lyrics. I need something heavy, something hard, but like something that I'm like, that's also like me and whatever. And I was like, well, what's more like piercing and what's more vulnerable for me than those poems I wrote? And I was like, let's just give a skim through them. I didn't want to read through them properly because I was like, I still want to keep that thing, but I just thought it would be a cool idea to just, I guess, experiment and see like, can I turn this art into another form of art? So it was
What
a
a
bit
flex.
early, but
What a flex. Damn. Well, touching on what you just said about vulnerability,
yes.
as a lot of your songs are inspired from previous relationships, especially obviously the Fall For You, how does it feel having your most personal emotions put out in public for people to listen to, but also judge? You know, people are going to listen to them, and, you know, especially that you've been open about it, and they'll see that this is how you felt at the time.
Yeah.
How does that, I mean, it turned out, made a great fucking song. Like, it worked out great, but like, how does it feel, the vulnerability? Does it come with anxiety, or does it come, how do you feel?
Yeah, wow, you're coming with the hard-hitting questions today. That's it is a great question, and it's probably something that I thought about when I first made music. So like, I was like pretty bad at the time, but obviously just starting and whatever. And I was putting stuff out, and I was like, man, it's too hard to put vulnerable stuff out. So a lot of my earlier stuff, if you hear like the hectic, more rapping stuff, it's really like not vulnerable, or it's like I'm being like symbolic when I'm being vulnerable, because I was like obsessed with like movies a lot of the time. Like I still really love movies now, but that was like my peak. I was like really obsessed with them, and I was like writing stories and stuff. So I'd pull from these stories and try and like write my own experiences through like these other characters I made up. So it's kind of like a step between and stuff, and it was vulnerable for me because I kind of understood sorry, it sounds really complex.
Honestly, I've got a few more questions in the chamber.
Cool.
What you said.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say like I kind of was writing them and picturing them, like I'm like, oh, okay, I understand what I'm saying in these lyrics, but some of them I'd like, use so much symbolism and stuff that a lot of people probably didn't fully get it, which I liked, because I was like, I can be vulnerable, but no one has to know the exact like full story and stuff. And for ages it was kind of like that, and then I think probably somewhere around then, or like another breakup or something like that, is when I started being like, damn, I'm like actually just need to start like actually saying what's on my mind, like take away all the symbolism and just be like as raw as I can. And I didn't think too much about it, and I just put out a couple of songs like that. But it probably wasn't until people started like, I don't know, like you actually have a conversation about the song. Like someone listening to that song doesn't make me think that they're like seeing all my vulnerability and like that side of me and stuff. But people talking about it, I'm like, oh, true. You actually can see exactly what I'm saying, which is, it sounds stupid because obviously you could, but I think specifically my mum as well. Like when my mum talks to me about some of my songs, I'm like, oh, that's weird. Like my mum knows what I'm writing about, and she's like,
banging the tunes.
Yeah, she's like consuming my art, which is kind of weird. But yeah, it does feel weird. Like I think, especially when I was younger, people playing my music around me, you feel kind of weird about it because you're like, oh, these people actually like it, or they're just playing it because I'm here or something, or
just for the band.
You kind of get that weird feeling and stuff. But I kind of moved past that now, and I was like, I'm really happy with the stuff that I'm putting out because I'm really specific about it now. I'm like, if I put it out, I'm like, cool, I think this is like at a high level of something that I can produce. So I'm happy for people to hear it, to listen to it and stuff. But yeah, you still feel that sometimes. I don't know. If someone listening to it, it is a weird feeling, and people asking questions about the song sometimes. I'm like, oh wow, I probably should have anticipated that when I put out a song that's kind of getting so vulnerable in myself that people would obviously be like, oh, what's this about, or what's this line about and stuff. So it does feel weird, like especially I'd say with my mum more than anyone else, because I'm like, oh, that's weird, like my mum knowing like my feelings and stuff when I haven't directly talked to her about it, but she knows me better than probably most, if not all people and stuff. So yeah.
So would you say, with what you said earlier, you said you created art and you created characters.
Yes.
And some of your vulnerability and what you were experiencing, you put onto those characters.
Yeah.
Do you reckon that could be a way of dealing with problems? Not only creating art, but creating say you had like 5 different things causing you anxiety and stress. You could create 5 different characters, all imposed with their own problem, and also almost just write and see, almost taking yourself away from that problem by putting it onto other people. And then you see how the characters deal with it.
Yeah.
As you're writing from their perspective, instead of being in your own head thinking about it for yourself, you put it on them and you go, let's see how these kids deal with it.
Yeah, wow. Jeez, you actually have some great questions. I can't lie.
I was very interested.
No, seriously, that's a really good question and something that I haven't thought about. But as you're saying it, I'm like clicking. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's pretty much accurate, to be honest. So like, I don't know. I briefly told you about it when we were driving back from Mandurah.
Shout out Mandurah.
Yeah, shout out Mandurah. Shout out Bunbury as well. Why not?
Not?
But yeah, I've been writing a story and stuff, and that's where one of the characters, Wesley Black, is from, and that's where I got the name from and stuff. And when I was looking through those characters and stuff, you're definitely right. Like a lot of the stuff that I'll go through in my own personal life is spread across different characters. Like that Wesley Black character is actually very different to me. Like I wouldn't say like, oh, I wrote this character and that's like me in the story. I just liked his name. I liked a lot of his characteristics, but I'll be very different to that character. But if I look across like maybe the 5 or 6 main characters, they all would probably display something that I'm like really maybe insecure about or worried about or something like that. And I guess you're right, like kind of putting their own spin on it. Some of them deal with it in what I would perceive as a bad way, and some of it deal with it in what I would perceive as a good way. And I guess just like having that critical thinking when you're writing is kind of something cool to help you deal with problems. I feel like that's why I guess writing is so therapeutic and stuff. And exactly like you said, if I'm creating these characters who are dealing with my problems and I see them doing something and I'm like, this isn't how I do it, but I'm going to make this character do this anyway so I can see how that would fully write out. Or the other one, it's like, oh, that's how I should have dealt with it. So this character can do that and I can just see the benefit of that. So I think that's an excellent question and literally something that caught me off guard because I'd never thought about it. But you're 100% right. Like, I think, yeah, that's a huge benefit of creating art is, I guess, you getting to put your solutions into a piece of paper, a song, or some sort of creative format and seeing how it plays out. And then you have the ability then or years later to look at it and be like, wow, I was kind of wrong with that. Or wow, I was super on the nose with that and stuff. So yeah,
Like
that's an excellent question. Yeah.
Therapeutic problem solving.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually a great way to put it.
Therapeutic problem solving.
Yeah. Now I'm going to create some more art.
Gonna get some more problems, G.
Yeah.
No, that's because I wonder if that could be something that could be used either consciously or unconsciously by a lot of people who are creatives. They will create a story based off what they see. Like I just had a bunch of story ideas even yesterday while I was going location scouting. And you create these problems for the characters, the ones you have, and you could just see how they deal with it. Like you could see, because you're writing it. So you could go, all right, let me write it. And because you're writing it and you're writing the world that they exist in, which could again be based off your world, you will have, I think it would naturally probably play off your fears. I think it would naturally play off your fears of what you were afraid of what would happen in the real world, but you have the ability to create another possibility in that world.
Yeah.
In a character.
Yeah, 100%.
Just dissect from that possibility how you could make those changes in real life.
Yep, 100%. And I've definitely seen that with like characters where I look at them and like, and it was just like sometimes it was like too much that I had to change, you know, their stories and their outcomes and stuff like that. So it's it's definitely an excellent point.
Does stress ever play a role in your creative process?
Yeah.
One, it could be stress of a deadline. It could be stress of, again, the vulnerability aspects.
Yeah.
So awkward convo with mum in the kitchen, you know, potentially at the end of it. Like, and also just stress of what if no one likes this?
Yeah.
You know, I'm 80% finished.
Yeah.
And I'll play it to a couple of people and they go, you know what I mean? Like, so does stress ever play a role?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say in some ways more than it used to, in some ways less than it used to. Like, I definitely used to have a lot more of like, I don't even know if it's a real term, but I guess a lot of creatives would probably feel it is like that release day anxiety. You know, the first day it comes out and you're like, oh, I don't even want this to come out. I don't want people to hear this and stuff. And you really feel that pressure and stuff. But yeah, like I said, I used to get that a lot more than I do now. But in the opposite side,
that from confidence?
Yeah, I'd say so. Or yeah, I'd say confidence. Like I probably just like the more I go, I'm like, oh, people actually liked these stuff and people like this. I'm like, yeah, you do start to get more confident in stuff and you get to be more, I don't know, in tune with yourself as an artist, that I'm like, oh, I'm not going to let that anxiety affect me as much anymore. And sometimes you can really feel and push yourself to be like, I'm going to create this art. For me, I really like this song and I'm going to put it out. So let's just roll with that or whatever, rather than worrying about what people think too much, which is me kind of saying it, but also definitely not true because I do worry about what people think. I can't lie, but it's still good. But now, on the other hand, like I was saying, I probably do feel a bit more stressed now that I guess just with some of the more connections I made or like some people that I'm getting to work with and stuff, I definitely feel the pressure of
performing.
Or like impressing them as well. And that's not in a bad way. Like me meeting my manager, like I think we started working together 3 to 4 years ago. I feel like that there's way more pressure by working with her, but in a good way, you know. She will like, you know, be like, all right, let's get this stuff done by here and here and stuff. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like I've got like deadlines to work towards. I've got stuff, and it doesn't. I usually don't think it affects like my art process where I'm like, all right, I'm making something for a deadline. I'm just like, look, if we have to push back a deadline, we have to, because I can't put out, you know, something that's not. That I'm not happy with, you know, or that I know isn't good or great or whatever. But yeah, I definitely feel more pressure from like Mushroom and management and stuff like that. From now, I'm like, all right, I've got more people backing me now or like putting faith in me and stuff. I was like, I can't let them down. So in a good way, it's really motivated me, but it's definitely added some stress. So I'd say stress does like play a part in it. But yeah, it's not necessarily like stress as a bad word. I'd say there's positives and negatives to it. And me on the positive side, I'm like, well, you know, stress means you're probably doing something right because you're putting yourself into uncomfortable positions, I guess. And yeah, it means like, all right, well, let's get yourself out of this. Keep going and stuff. And I guess like you'd rather have a life where, you know, stress is always chasing you than it's never chasing you at all. It means like, you know, you're stepping out of something, you're doing something a bit different, you know, so.
And you reckon stress, like you just said something great. You said stress.
Yeah.
You're doing something right if you're stressed.
Yeah, I'd say so. Like, yeah, I guess it, like, you having that means, yeah, I guess like if stress is always chasing you, it means like, all right, you're continuously moving to the next step and it's trying to catch up to you, you know? It's like, if I'm hitting the same level every time, the stress is going to stay there. But if I'm like, all right, I moved up from last release, and I keep doing something different, it's going to be chasing me. And I'm like, all right, I want that. I want to keep knowing that I can at least have the feeling that I'm moving up or I'm taking the right steps or whatever.
And you reckon stress doesn't compromise quality? It almost...
it is a tricky...
It could enhance it, like you're saying, you have that pressure to excel.
I'd say, yeah, it is a tricky question. I'd say in a short answer, yeah, yes or no. Like sometimes it gives you that boost, but sometimes it does make you feel like I'm like, all right, well, I have to get something done or whatever. And you might feel like you can cut a project short and be like, well, this is good enough or whatever. But for me personally, I haven't really been doing much of that. I never really am like, all right, let's just, you know, half-ass something and put it out. I'll be like, well, worst case, we have to push the deadline back and I have to get something out. Because, you know, if you put something out, it's there forever. You don't want to be putting out 80% stuff all the time. I'd rather put out less stuff that I feel can be like more 100%. So yeah, definitely there's good and bad to both, I'd say. Good and bad to stress is what I meant to say.
How would you say the music that you do put out, obviously you're signed with management, so they obviously potentially have a say in it. Do you say that the music that you create is for yourself, or you create it because you think it will do well publicly?
That's an excellent question.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm complimenting all the questions.
You're going to timer just in the corner of the screen.
yeah. The compliment counter. No,
You've been given great answers as well, bro, just to say. I'm very interested.
No, I appreciate that.
I'm learning a lot right now.
Oh, no, that's awesome. Yeah, it's a tricky one. I would want to say 100% for myself. I feel like there is definitely an element of you want to make something that people can accept or whatever. I know there's a lot of artists that will be like, I create it solely for myself, and if people like it, then they like it. And that's awesome because I think, you know, that's a great way to make art without restrictions. But I'd say for me, there definitely is like somewhat of an aspect of, will people like this and stuff? But I don't see that as a negative. I know a lot of people would. They're like, oh, you're compromising your art by fitting something. But there's definitely, it's like a huge spectrum, I think. You know, you can definitely, and no disrespect, but you can definitely tell when there's a song that's produced just to be like, I don't know, you know, have a few lines that will do well on TikTok or something like that, you know, and they're very like kind of, it feels a bit shoehorned in sometimes, but I think exactly the great example would be Fall For You. Like I created an art with zero boundaries because I never expected anyone to read it, and that was the poem for Fall For You, the original one, You Don't Have To Worry. And then when I came across it, I added in that maybe 10 or 20% of me that's like, all right, you have to make this digestible to other people. And that's when I was like, all right, well, I have to turn it into a song. These lyrics don't really fit like this, so I'm gonna have to change it to make it more accessible, more listenable and stuff like that. And I think that's like a really cool skill in itself because it gets you thinking about, all right, everyone can digest art in a certain way. Like paintings are awesome like that. You don't have to explain it at all. People can be like, it means this. Someone else can be like, it means this. But with a song, I'm like, all right, I want people to experience the poem as closely as when I was writing it. I want people to get that exact feeling. So to do that, I had to change some of these words that were so personal to me, or these phrases that only I would get, and I have to make it marketable. So I'd say that's a really good question that as well, I never really come to terms with, but I think I'm happy to say that. I think I'm happy to say that I do create a lot of art that's solely for me, but when it comes to music, I definitely add that maybe 10 to 20% mindset where I'm like, I have to make this accessible as well, because I want people to consume my art. Like, especially if it's vulnerable, then people want to hear vulnerable stuff that relates to them and stuff like that. Then I should be making it, I don't know, made for a mass audience rather than just myself. So that's my input on it. But I fully respect anyone who does either way. You know, they're both challenging. But for me, I think like mixing the two together is a great way to produce a song that is listenable to a lot of people and can relate to a lot of people, and also has a really, you know, Wesley Black touch to it. I'm like, all right, I still wrote that. I didn't write this from anyone else's perspective. It's me, and I just turned it into something that a lot of people can enjoy.
I think it's an excellent skill that if you want to be, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. If you want to be in this industry for a while, you need to make money. You need to make money from your art if that's what you want to do. So that's 10 to 20% touch of, let's just make it a bit commercial, you know, so we get a bit more plays.
Yep.
You're going to need that. You're going to need that if you want to be around for a while. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like, as great as it would be to just be 100%, this is pure for me. If
Yep.
no one buys it,
Yep.
you're just going to die. Like, you need money for food. Like, so
100%.
You need a bit of that twist on the end there
Yep.
to get it over the line and have people listening to it. And I feel like it doesn't compromise. It doesn't have to compromise it. You can just have that twist, that 10 to 20% on, to make it a little catchy. But who doesn't like a catchy song? Like, let's absolutely get a hook in it.
Exactly.
In it, you know.
Exactly. And I feel like that's an excellent point, because I think I've made it from both directions, and I made it where it's just like, I love this song. I think it's awesome or whatever, and I'm not going to change anything about it. And then when you show people, they're like, oh yeah, it's cool. But you can tell if it's like someone's favorite song, or they've memorized the chorus, or they want to hear it again, versus they heard it, they're happy, and they're like, yep, cool, that song, it exists. So, so I'm like, and I felt that before, and I'm like, look, I'm really happy with the art, and I was like, I'm just going to keep that song for myself then, because I'm like, I want to make art that makes people want to consume it again and maybe listen to it in different times, get something different from it, versus they hear it once and they're like, cool, and I'm like, this is awesome. But I want people to enjoy it as well. I want to, I guess, like, if you want to create a legacy as well, you want to have many people enjoy it, you know? Like, I can always create stuff that I'll always enjoy, and I have been, and a lot of that stuff's like locked away, and I'm like, all right, these poems and stuff, I can always go back to them. But if I want other people to experience the feelings that I'm feeling and maybe get something relatable, I have to push that 10 to 20% in.
Do you think, like, something you said just then, like, I'm sure every creative person has experienced this. When you're even a creative person, when you create a piece of work,
Yep.
you know, you put a bunch of hours into all of this, you're so gassed about it, and you show it to someone and they go, yeah, it's good, yeah. And then they just move on with the day, which is completely fine.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone does that, even like to other people's work. Like if they show you something that you just don't care about,
Yep.
and you go, like, yeah, it's good, mate, yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Like, of course, like you're not as emotionally attached to it as them.
Yeah.
When you are creating a song, for example, do you show specific people who you know that you have shown in the past previous works, and they have given you a reaction which is more than just a, yeah, it's all good, yeah. Like, do you have people, when you're creating a song, before you put it out there, or let's say it's like 50-60% done, you know, do you show them that song, like specific people, or do you just, anyone who will listen, what do you reckon of this? What do you think of this?
That's, yeah, I think I'm like, more so if a song's not out, I'm like more like protective of it. Like most people will hear it on the release date kind of thing, versus I'll probably only show a really minimal amount. Like if I'm getting a music video done, I'll send it to the music video crew or whatever, and my manager, and I guess now Mushroom as well, and that's pretty much the three kind of groups I show it to. And yeah, I don't know, because I definitely like I said, I can't lie, I have to be honest, like I do to some extent care what people think and stuff. So if I show a lot of people and I got that reaction that I wasn't hoping for from a lot of people, I would probably be quite deterred to be like, well, now I have to change the song, or I'd be like, I have to pick a different song or something for my next release. But I think showing the minimal amount of people, Rach and I, that's my manager, sorry, are usually on like a really similar wavelength, and I appreciate it if she says the song, like there's been heaps of times where she's like, I don't think the song's that good, or I don't think it's your best work, or I don't think it's in the right direction you want to go. Like I'll take that under my wing and stuff, and I'll be like, okay, cool, yep, I see where you're coming from or whatever. And obviously there's sometimes where I'll be like, I get you, but I still want to go ahead with it and stuff, you know, like we both have different ideas. We're different people, of course, but I think for me, it's more important to show as minimal people. So I don't know if I have an excellent answer to that question,
No,
but it's just a personal one. Yeah, I'd say like I like to keep it minimal because I can definitely be deterred by people's opinions. So I'm like, in my heart, I'm like, all right, this song's catchy. I like it. I'm happy with it. Let's go ahead with it. Let's show the few people I have to. And yeah.
100%. So it's quite compartmentalized.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't say that word right.
Nah.
I don't know.
Well, I agree with it. So.
Whatever it is. But but you do have that woman, you said Rachel, your manager. You have Rachel in your life who is a trusted source.
Yes, 100%.
You can say, what do you reckon of this? And yeah, even if Rachel's not feeling it, you're still like, well, I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Yeah, of course.
I feel like, do you reckon having those people that you can get direction or notes or direction and input is important? Or do you reckon that is important to creating the best possible song you could do? Or you just go, I'm not telling anyone this, you all listen to it on the day it comes out. Do you reckon, because you'll obviously come out, in a sense, you'll come out with a more like pure Wesley Black song. Do you know what I mean? Like your poems, like you wrote 100% of that. No one's got input. No one's like changed verse 3.
Yeah.
But you like having those little notes almost like got to compromise a little bit, but also just like, they're right. I'm so in the thick of it.
Yeah.
Oh, this person hears this. And they go, what, you know, Wesley, what about changing this? You hear it, you go, oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Do you reckon that's important to have that?
I'd say I can only answer that personally as well. I think for me, I'd say it is important. And I guess it kind of goes back to that spectrum as well. Of do you want to create 100% art, or are you happy to introduce that 10 to 20% of yourself that's like, let's make sure that this is also commercial. Let's make sure it's also accessible. And that within that 20% there, I'd say Rachel's a big part of that and stuff as well. Like I think if you want to create art and you're like, I don't want anyone to hear it and I want to release it, you'll create, like you said, the most pure version of that art that you can create. So that is awesome on one hand. But for me, since I like to really think about how can I also make this, I don't know, more accessible and a lot of people can relate to it, I have to get that input and make sure that the song kind of, I don't know, fits the right parameters and stuff. And I don't want people to listen to this and get the wrong idea of like the kind of conversations that me and someone else or me and Rachel might have or whatever. Like it will usually just be like, oh, I like this song, but sometimes it might be mixing notes or instrumental notes or just like maybe, it's very rarely lyrics, maybe sometimes like, maybe sometimes it's more like the structure of something. And it depends as well. If you like to just be like, this is my art, then I would suggest like go ahead and, you know, let people hear on release day. But for someone like me as well, I'm like, I have to make sure it's the right song and catchy. And I get that nervous kind of feeling before it's out. So getting that second opinion for me as well is like good validation to be like, you're on the right track. This song sounds good to 2 people, which is better than 1. So, which is always good.
100%. Try hit 3, then 4.
Yeah. 3 would be awesome. So,
no, 100%. Like that, it does make sense.
Yes,
and also that having people's input beforehand probably helps breed a bit more confidence into it. Like
for sure,
go on the right track. Because if you just drop it, you know, and you could have been wasted when you made the song. Let's say you make the song in a minute. You put that song out the next day, you wake up and go, what the hell was that?
Yeah. That would be pretty bad.
So having that validation. 100%.
Yeah.
I was going to ask as well, so I don't think I've ever asked you this. What made you want to be an artist in the first place? Like you could have done whatever you wanted to do.
Yeah.
What made you want to choose the path of uncertainty, hard odds, you know, but like, was it passion? Was it just undeniable passion?
Yeah.
Led you down this path, or what made you like one day and go like, listen, I'm Wesley Black.
Wesley Black. I think I've definitely always had something in myself that's like been telling me you have to create something. I think
from like an early age.
Yeah, from super early age. Like my mum will be the best teller of this, I guess. But like ever since I learned to write,
I'll get it on the pod for sure.
Yeah. Next episode. Ever since I like learned to write, I was like writing stories or whatever. Like I've got like seriously so many that I've just saved from when I was a kid or whatever. Like I would just like invent video games, and I'd be like, all right, this is the storyline. I'd invent like little comics and be like, here's the story. Or I'd like I went through so many staplers, and my mom would get so annoyed at me because I just kept making books and books, and I'd just write and write and write. And then I think my passion has changed over time. Like, I remember I got really into drawing for a while. And then when I got into like wrestling the first time, I was like, man, I'm gonna be a wrestler. Probably doesn't help with my size. I'm probably not. I'm no.
Rey Mysterio was
true,
going crazy, to be fair.
I might need to get a mask or something, but I'm no John Cena. Let's just say that. But yeah, and then I wanted to create that, and I remember getting into poetry. I can't remember how I got into it. I don't know if it was through school or through some sort of musician and just finding them online. I can't remember the specifics, but I remember writing poems for ages when I was like maybe like year 9, year 10. And then eventually I just kind of I was telling my friend about it, and he's like, oh, do you listen to rap? And I was like, not really. And he just showed me a bunch of rappers and stuff,
Just
and I was like,
Tupac.
wow, yeah,
You could be this.
pretty much. And he was just like, he was like, man, this is pretty much just like poetry, don't you think? And I was like, oh, kind of is. And it's just
raps literally stands for rhythm and poetry.
Exactly. So I was like, well, let's just add some rhythm to it, and then so we're good. So
Beat, mate.
So I pretty much just started writing music, and like I said, I was like definitely not great for a few years, but like you're meant to be, of course, and just really fell in love with it and just kept making music. And then once I got to a point where I was like, I want to take this seriously, I was like, I need a stage name, and that's when I looked through, found one of my older stories that I've written, and I was like, I'm taking Wesley Black. And I think just the more I created and put out, it's just kind of like, I don't know, it satisfies my urge to create something, and it also gives you that satisfaction. That's well, you play soccer, right? Or a few sports? Yeah, sorry.
I mean, I used to. I haven't played in a while.
Okay, yeah. So I've never been good at sports, right? But I've only just started playing. I don't know if this is laughable, but I really love it. I've only started playing ultimate frisbee, right? And it's so much. Man, he really laughed at me.
No, it's a real sport.
Oh,
good.
So
I just love how you had to preface it. You know what I mean?
I had to. But it's just like, it's interesting because I've never had the joy of playing a sport like ever until like now. And I'm like, I started playing it, and the most satisfying part is like not winning or anything like that. But although we're pretty good. I can't lie. It's like, it's the feeling that like, I'm like, man, 3 weeks ago I was at this level, and 3 weeks before that I was at this level, and 3 weeks ago I was at this level, and you just see like the progression and stuff, and it's like so satisfying to see, like, I don't know, you ticking your own boxes and you setting goals, and like just like, I don't know, applying like a good mentality to it, and just like seeing yourself level up in something like that. And so when I think of why did I become an artist, I think it's a kind of a mix of that. I've always, since a young age, like something inherent in me, I guess, I have to create something, and then also putting it out there and testing if I can make it like something accessible or mainstream or something like that satisfies that need in me that's like, I need to keep elevating and doing something. I need to achieve goals. I need to set short-term and long-term goals and see if I can hit them. So I guess taking music seriously and doing all that has kind of ticked those boxes. So I'd say that's the main two reasons why.
Taking it back to where you said your friends introduced you to rap, when you were first kind of, especially rocking up with the poems, did any of your friends ever take the piss, or did anyone go like, "Great, mate, like what's this?" Or was it a positive? Was it a positive? Well, introduction, I guess. Was it a warming reception when you first showed that creative side to a lot of people?
Yeah, I'd say with the poems, it was fine or good because I showed like so few people and stuff, and a lot of my friends at that time were girls, so I would be showing them the poems and stuff, and I don't know, I felt like that was a better crowd because, I don't know, they were quite accepting and they were into poetry as well, so it was kind of cool. And so, you know, not a lot of people knew about it. But with rap, especially because it was like rap, like versus now, I would more so say I'm more of a singer than a rapper. Like, I don't really rap anymore and stuff like that, and I'm kind of just like enjoy the ability of making a song and like the structure of a song and stuff like that. But when I first put out music, definitely was a bad reception because like a lot of people at school knew about it and stuff, and so, you know, there's good and bad. Like, people, like some people were like, oh, that's awesome and stuff, but obviously a lot of people would take the piss. Like, a lot of people were like, what's it called, thought it was like pretty bad and stuff, or would say stuff, and luckily, like, I was like pretty social guy. Like, I made a lot of friends in a few different friend groups, and some of my friends would even tell me that they're like, oh, you know, this guy was saying this and stuff like that, and I was like, well, but it's just kind of like, I guess something that's especially in Australia or Perth or something like that, you know, it's you kind of just have to deal with it and stuff, you know. It's being a creative is not the norm, so if you're stepping out of your box and doing something different, of course people will, you know, see not only the good but a lot more times the bad side. And I definitely don't like hold that against anyone as well. If anyone was laughing at me then, I mean, I sucked then, so I can't even hate on that. So I was like,
who's laughing now?
yeah. Well, I was like, I mean, it is what it is. I was like, you know, that's just like what people do when you're like teenagers and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, it is what it is. But I do remember like the few like turning points and how satisfying that was, because I was like, for a few years I was like, man, why'd I even try with music? Because I was like, I feel like it's just like worsened my life, kind of, because I was like, putting it out there has just like made people take me a lot less seriously in something that I'm so passionate about.
Affecting your reputation.
100%. But I remember the first song that I put out on SoundCloud, I was like so stoked with that, and people were like, "Well, this is actually good." And like the way they said it sounds like an insult, but I remember people were like, "Oh, I was actually surprised. Like, it actually sounded good." And I was like, you know what? I'll take that as a compliment. Like, I know kind of isn't. And then I remember the first like Spotify release and stuff. I remember the feeling of that, and then I'd say the turning point was probably maybe 2019 was the song Red I put out, which is just like something so, I felt like it was really game changing. It was different. I hadn't heard a song like that, and that was when I did the show that I put on my little reel and stuff like that, where it's like I booked my own show because there's no gigs really at that time in Perth and stuff, that I was like, all right, I'm just gonna book my own show. I'm gonna pay all the artists.
Crazy at the shows as well.
Yeah, what? Sorry.
Red goes crazy.
Yeah. It is like a fan favorite now. So yeah, exactly. 100%. I usually take it off the set list because I was like, all right, it's been years now. I don't want to play this song anymore. But then there's usually a chant at the end of it. Fine, I'll do it. So, yeah. Hey, I remember that voice actually. But yeah, it is. I definitely feel that, and I feel like, you know, that's definitely not something that should deter you, I guess, if you are an artist listening to this and you're like creating and you're like, what if I get laughed at and stuff? Then it's like, well, what if you get laughed at? Then you just make the next step and you just keep elevating, and eventually people are going to be like, this is kind of good. And some people will be like, oh, this is good. I like this guy's music now. Or they'll be like, this is good, so it's not really any point laughing at it and stuff or whatever. And it's just like, you create it, and you don't have to create it for people you went to school with or people you go to uni with or people in your hometown. Just create it for someone that's going to enjoy that art. And that's, I guess, like the beauty of the power of like going online and stuff now. It's like, you know, a lot of my listeners will be in a different country or a different state or something like that. I'm like, you know, I should be trying to impress the rest of the world, not just the people immediately surrounding me as well. You know, like, art is for whoever you want it to be and stuff. So yeah.
How do you want, like, I guess it's a change on a song to song basis, but like with especially Fall For You, how do you want it to affect the listener? Like, because obviously, and again, that's another personal thing because it's based on people's interpretation.
Yeah.
But like, is that when you're creating it, do you want people to like feel a certain way when listening to the song?
Yeah, I would say so. I think, yeah, I think you can create one and you can picture like the ideal environment. I think when I first created Red, I was like just picturing, I was like, no one's going to listen to this on their own. This is made for like, you know,
session.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's like people can listen to this at like pre's or something, or people can listen to this at the show or something like that. Versus a lot of the other songs I would make, and I'm like, all right, this is for someone to listen to when they're driving or they're sad or something like that, and it's nighttime. And I guess just like
I've done all three.
Yeah.
Sad driving at nighttime.
You got to mix them together.
Absolutely.
So. But yeah, I think it is important to that. Like, listen to it and be like, how would this song affect me the best? And it is important because I think that's what makes a song stand out, or what someone makes them add a song to their playlist or repeat listen and stuff like that, is like, what environment can you put them in? And if it's like, I make a song and some people could say like, this song is like relatable, or these lyrics were like made for me or something like that, is like one of the highest praises, because it's like, that's the point of me making the art, is I'm like, I have to make art because I can't just describe how I'm feeling, and this point in my life is really hard, so I'm going to write something about it and I'm going to put it out there. And for someone to to listen to that and be like, man, that reminds me of when I was in this dark time or whatever and stuff like that, is just like a really high praise, because it's like I created the art. It makes me feel like I created the art with them or for someone. And yeah, so I think that's definitely important. Like, visualize how people should feel, and try and execute that the best. Yeah.
So when you're creating it, you visualize people listening to it?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I used to, especially when like I said, I used to be really into movies and stuff. I would visualize like everything about it. I'd be like, all right, this is the colors that this song is. This is like the things that people would wear to this song, and everything like that. So
when you listen, like, to a Hans Zimmer song, for example, just an orchestral piece.
Yep.
When you listen to one of those, like, someone told me recently that you kind of do the opposite to what I do, in a sense. So if I listen, a lot of the time, if I'm writing a screenplay or something, I'll listen to an orchestral piece which has the tone of the scene I'm writing.
Yep.
But I think I heard that you will watch a scene and then will write a song to it.
Yeah.
Is that true?
I did used to, not as much anymore, but that used to be like my like go-to writing process for a while. Like, that whole Angel EP that Red and Outlaw and all that kind of stuff is on, that was pretty much all like that. Like, I would watch movies, shout out Paul Thomas Anderson, that's my favorite director, and so heaps of them are his movies. Definitely a few Stanley Kubrick ones in there. Like, Outlaw was pretty much just...
What songs did you make to Stanley Kubrick?
Well, Outlaw was pretty much right after I had watched Eyes Wide Shut, and I was like, and... Hey, not the dirty parts, not the dirty parts. But I was just like, I don't know, it was just...
Play that song.
It was, I don't know, it was just the feeling of it, and I was like, man, this song feels like purple and like higher class, but with like evil tones to it. I'm doing something wrong, and like also red kind of tones. Just red was like my staple at that time, but like, I don't know, I just felt a lot of that, and masks and stuff, and it came through when I put together the video as well. There's like some inspiration from there.
You did say something just then which was very interesting. You said you said like the scene was very purple.
Yeah.
Does purple have a sound? Does purple have a specific sound for you?
That's a tricky question to answer, because I want to say yes, but I don't know how to say what sound it is. I feel like
I wasn't going to be like, let's bust up the keyboard.
Good. Yeah, because I would say, like, I feel like, yeah, it does. Like, you can just picture it, and I'm like, all right, that's purple, now write, and that's how I'm writing in, like, a purple kind of mindset or something like that. But if I had to put it into words, I couldn't do it. I feel like, I don't know, like, I guess the best way to think about it is, like, would your writing change if you were in an all purple room versus an all red room? Oh, there you go. So
I live in the lavender haze. It's
oh, there you go. So you're onto the same wavelength as me.
I mean, maybe. I
don't know. Like, if the room was like, I'm talking like really bright. Like, if you just put it to the extreme, if you're like fully red room, like it's really like really red, and you're just like writing, would it be different if it was fully blue? I don't know. Like, it might not, but I feel like, yeah, no, I do as well. Sure. I'm just picturing it because that would be the extreme, but I think it would. I think, yeah, I think
you think just subconsciously your eyes sensory will just see that it's a different color in the room, and it will just make you write in a different way.
Yeah, and if you tried to write the same piece on like, in your bedroom versus maybe you're on a holiday in a country that, I don't know, like a foreign country or something, I feel like you would write Nepal, two different things. Yeah. Like, I wrote a lot when I was in Nepal, and I feel like if I wrote that while I was in Perth or something, or my bedroom or something, it would come out different. I could be wrong, because obviously there's not really any way to test it, because once you've written it, I'm not going to write it again, and if I do, I'm going to remember the first one. So
just give it 5 years and then crack it open again.
Yeah. 100%. So yeah.
Well, it's interesting you talk about places that you were writing.
Yep.
Because I asked you again when we were down in Mandurah about where you write.
Yep.
And you said something really interesting. You said that you will... Oh, I remember what you said. You said that you would go to places where significant effects happen.
Facts.
And then you would write a song, inspired from that event.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, I don't want to get too personal with it, obviously, but like, is that almost... So like you said with the colours in the room, how it could trigger a different response.
Yeah.
You believe that you go to a place where you had that emotional situation.
Yeah.
You believe that will trigger a more creative or a different creative response?
I think so, yeah. Because I think your body kind of, I don't know, or like your mindset, you kind of feel well, it depends where you go, obviously, but you can feel like a lot more like uncomfortable when you get there and you're like, oh, this feels weird and stuff. And it just like puts your whole body and mindset into like a different kind of response. And then like whatever you're riding through there has to like pass through that kind of anxious state of mind or whatever. And I definitely think it would affect it. Yeah, I definitely think it would affect it.
That is so interesting, bro. It's like,
yeah.
I mostly do most of my riding like in a dome.
Yeah.
In a dome, you know what I mean?
Well,
and I'm riding
yeah.
nothing to do with domes. Not a single coffee in any of the
True,
scripts.
yeah. I don't know, I guess, but you could also try doing that kind of like you're writing a different piece or something along the lines of it somewhere else, and maybe it's different or maybe it's not. But I feel like if you go to somewhere that's definitely like significant to you, it'll be hard not to. Like for example, you went down to like, I don't know, somewhere that you had gone and you're like, all right, this is last time I went here, or every time I went here I was with this other significant person, and now I'm not with that person, so if I'm going here, your body would just automatically
100%.
be like, this is weird. So then you just start writing. And I remember like driving to one of them at nighttime because I was like, I had nothing going on or whatever. And I was just like driving there and I just brought like a little notepad and a pen. And I was like, all right, just write and whatever. And I went down to like the walkway to the rocks or whatever. And it was like only me there because that spot's like not really popular even in the day. But at nighttime, there was like no one there or whatever. And I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't the best idea because it was so dark and there were no lights there that after I was like,
out of nowhere.
yeah,
I
was like,
you should just written in the bedroom again. Right?
Yeah. I was literally like, at some point I was like, all right, I can't really see what I'm writing, that I might just go upstairs again. But you know, for a while, like you definitely feel it in your head at least.
Damn.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to give it a go.
Yeah, I'm keen to hear about it.
I don't know where I'd go. It's not really. I don't know. I'll figure it out.
Well, let me put it onto you because you put me onto.
Have you still been doing
tactics.
that?
I have every single day since then. So I done it every day. I pretty much format it like, anyone
I
that
was going to
doesn't
say,
know what it
what
is.
Wesley's talking about is reviewing the day every day and
Correct.
then putting a lesson of the day at the end of the day. Dude, your first one you sent me,
Correct.
where it was like, are you okay if I say it?
Yeah.
You said don't let your blessing become a curse.
Yes, yeah.
Dude,
yeah,
I read
yeah.
it out loud. I read it in my head and out loud I just went, damn. And my
Yeah.
roommate went, what? And I was like, it's coming out the gate with this. Christ.
Had to drop some bars in there.
Absolutely.
But yeah, well, what I was going to say is you put me onto it, of course. And this is like, I think that you just showed me and you've done it for 800 something days.
It's close to 850 days in a
Wow,
row, I think
yeah,
now.
that's awesome. So yeah, and you just you write it and you put a lesson at the end, which is like, that's the game changer as well, because it's like writing what you did every day is awesome. Like that's going to do great things to you or whatever, but adding that extra step just makes it so much more. So I pretty much formatted it the exact same as yours. I'm like, Thursday, 25th of April, 2024 or whatever. And I do one sentence at the start, which was, today was a X day. So I'm just like, first sentence, I'm like, do I want to read this or do I not or whatever? And then I write exactly what happened. And then the last sentence is, and I usually write it that format. I'll go like, today's lesson is, and I'll write like, the kind of bar or like the hard part, and then I'll explain it in context because I'm like, you need some context for it, because sometimes you're like, don't let your blessings be a curse. You're like, oh, that sounds hard, but what does that actually mean? So I was like, I had to put the context to it and like, this is why I thought that or whatever. So it's really cool because it gets you thinking as well. Like throughout the day, I'm like, oh, that's my lesson right there. I'm thinking, I was like,
quick.
Because it's like,
it'll be 2 p.m. You're like, oh, that was a great thing.
Facts, because you're like, it's just like such a power to be like, I learned something today, and now every day I have written proof that I've learned something every single day. So, all right, mine's 7 days. So mine's like, is it? Maybe 7-ish, or maybe
probably,
even less.
Nah,
maybe it's
I think
6.
we started last Saturday.
Yes, yeah.
It was cool. I remember I was just typing. You're like, what are you doing? I was like,
you're right. So yeah, 7 days. So mine's like nothing as crazy as yours, but I'm really happy that I've been able to.
mine started at 7 days.
Yes, exactly.
It's not like everyone starts at 7 days. You have to get to 7 days to get to 8 days.
I mean, if you had that mentality, then why would you go to the gym? You're like, I can only lift 20 and this guy's doing 200. I'll just give up. So of course, you got to
22.
You got to start there. But once I hit 850 days, I'm trying to be like you. I'm trying to be the master of lessons and reviewing my days and stuff.
Lessons.
Hey, you are, bro. To me, you are. So
I really appreciate you giving me the game of going to places which will trigger that raw emotional reaction.
Yeah.
Because that is kind of the purpose of this podcast, is to learn how to improve creatively. And I'm going to interview guests every week.
Yep.
And I'll ask them questions like I've asked you today. I've got a couple more, I reckon. We'll fit them in.
Yep.
I'll just a few questions about their creative process. and see if there's any consistencies in what they talk about. So
Yep.
if the next 5 people I talk to all say, one way that I like to write is I go to a place where something emotionally bad happened, which will trigger the response that I need for my writing.
Yeah.
I'll be like, well, that obviously works.
Yeah. Yeah.
That obviously works. So I'm hoping, again, this is basically just lessons of the week creatively, pretty much. Just
Wow.
learning,
Yeah.
just learning the consistencies and also the habits.
Yep.
You know, like I haven't even asked you about that. Like, is there any, sitting down, grabbing the pen, putting it down on paper is the hardest part.
Yep.
It's the hardest part.
Yep.
Is there any habits or rituals that you have which you have found has helped you get pen to paper?
Oh, that's tricky. I'd probably say personally, I kind of lean towards no for myself. I would be really curious to hear other people's response to this and people that would say yes, which is why
I've kind of started doing something in the last few weeks.
Okay. Well, go ahead. I'm keen to hear yours.
Kind of speaking about like gym and that. You know how you warm up?
Yep.
You don't immediately go bench 100. You warm up on 50.
Yep.
I feel like I remember one time I was at my boy Sam's house.
Yep.
And I had
Sam.
shout out to Sam in the green room. And none of this would be possible without Sam. Big thanks to Sam as always. Like
Thanks.
I was in his garden and I was trying to do some editing for a film and I was just like, it's not getting me. And then I just started thinking about, because I'm going back home in a couple months, about stuff I could do creatively when I'm back home. And I just got to play with that idea. Just a complete, no stress, no parameters, just a fun little, let your brain have a little run around with this idea. And I did that for about 20 minutes and it almost in a sense warmed up my brain creatively. Like you'd warm up a muscle lifting lighter weights, warm up your brain thinking about just a fun little, let's say you're in this room, let's say that was a microphone, you're about to sort of spit a quick 16 and you're like, nothing's coming to the brain.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, let me just look around this room. All right, what's a story that could take place in this room? What's an idea that could happen in this room?
Yeah.
You just explore that idea. You put a cap on it. Let's not go mental with it. Like, let's not just run her off with that for like 5 hours. You still got the main work you got to do.
Yeah.
But just warm up the brain a little bit. And then you go, all right, I've explored that idea. I'll jot down some notes if I want to continue it with in the future. But now my brain is a little more warmed up. Let me jump back into the thing I was doing before. So it's almost like creative procrastination.
Yeah, that's actually a great way to put it. Yeah. That's true. Like exercising it and kind of leading yourself into it. Like even like you were saying before, I guess if you want to have a natural conversation or something, then talk about nothing before you get into something or whatever. Just like get yourself in the moment for it and stuff. And I think actually with you saying that, I think I'd probably change my answer to yes. Mine's probably more, I guess, like not as thought out or something, but if I want to create the best art, I know that there's a few things I can do or whatever. And
tell me.
Crazily, one of them was actually my lesson of the day yesterday, because I had 2 lessons yesterday, which is the first and only time I've done it.
Double Dutch sometimes for sure.
I had
and then
to,
if you can't think of another one in like a week, you're just like, I'll just use that.
Yeah, 100%. So one of mine was, one of those. So I had a session last night, a music session, and this is the first time I've ever worked with this guy. I actually met him at Murdoch Uni, so shout out Murdoch Uni, shout out Mooney, which is not Murdoch Uni, that is his name. So
this is a different
it sounds like I was meshing them together. But he's a really good producer, and he's also a really good singer that I only found out a couple of weeks ago. I never knew he sung, but I saw his new like artist page pop up and I was like, man, your music's crazy and stuff. I was like, do you do sessions? He's like, yeah, I do. So we met up yesterday for the first time. I've seen him in like 3 years and it was such a good session. Like I was just like so surprised. I wrote like the pre-chorus and the verse like instantly, like within like 15 minutes or something like that. He's like, man, you're a fast writer. I was like, I know sometimes I am, but I was like, this is really fast. I was like, we pretty much like did like, I don't know, half the song or whatever in like the first like 20 minutes or whatever. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. And then I spent a bit more time on the chorus and stuff. But yeah, it was really good. So one of my lessons was when you can't hit 100%, change your environment. When you find the right people, it should always be easy. So when I had a lot of trouble making
Mate, I've been doing it for like 800 days. I'm not writing that kid. What the hell?
Stop hyping me up too much. I'm just using your formula.
Dude,
but
what? I got to change the formula. It ain't working for me. I got to change the environment. It ain't working for me. What the hell? What the hell?
You're learning too fast. But yeah, because I was like, sometimes like you do make music and I'm like, man, I made like the last 5 songs I made. I'm just like, I just don't like them enough. I'm like, there's something, they're like B tier type of songs. I'm like, they're not bad, but they're not like game changers. They're nothing worth releasing as a single and stuff. And then I was like, I need to find someone new to work with or just change my habit or something. And sometimes changing your habits could be like the best thing, where it's like, oh, now I've done something different. So that's why I'm keen for you to try this, go to a different location and see, maybe you're like, oh, this is like not my habit, but this could be something that's different, and this could be something that could become a habit for me or whatever. But yeah, I think for me, it's like I have to do it at nighttime as well. Like I work way better at night. I know that. So if I try making stuff at the day, it's pretty much always going to be worse.
That's because the creative part of your brain, though, is more active at night.
True. I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure. I could have just lied, but I'm pretty sure.
Well, hey,
I'm pretty sure that's true. I'm pretty sure I heard that like the creative part of your brain is most active in like the last 4 hours you're awake.
Yep.
Or something.
Yeah. Okay.
Again,
cool.
Could be a complete lie though. Don't want to put that out.
I'm believing it already. I think as well, like I think it's good when, for me, I've put 70% of my thought into it. Like if I'm putting 100% of my thought into it and be like, all right, let's sit down, make something. It's just like, it feels too forced, you know? And you just can't make the best stuff. Whereas if I'm driving and I put on instrumentals that I've found and I liked or whatever, and maybe I didn't come up with an idea straight away I just put them on, and then I'm like, cool, I'll like pull over, voice memo it, and just like put over like the melodies or the lyrics or something like that, and then I'll come back to it and be like, all right, let's actually put this all together or something like that. Like I feel like sometimes if you don't put 100% into it, you get like a better result. I don't know, that's just something I've thought. But definitely for me, changing their environment was good. Or maybe it was just like me and Mooney worked so well together that I really enjoyed it. But I guess, yeah, just like not doing everything yourself and finding the right people that you want to work with, like for yourself, Marina or something like that. You're like,
Shout out Marina.
yeah,
Oh
you
my
were saying you're like,
goodness.
I couldn't have done this
She's the
without
goat.
Marina and stuff. And everyone should have something like that. You shouldn't,
100%.
yeah, you shouldn't
Marina's
have
the
to.
best.
Yeah,
100%.
shout out Marina.
Shout out Marina. She'll be on the pod soon. Don't worry about it.
I'm keen for that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you shouldn't have that mentality where it's like, I have to 100% create everything or whatever. It's like, you can do that, and respect to anyone that does, but I feel like there's such a benefit to collaborating and working with people, you know, that's like what people are good at, you know, communication, that's
And
what
it's
makes
such
us
a
human.
collaborative, I just can't say it. It's words with C, you know, compartmentalizing.
Yeah.
Collaborative. It's such a collaborative industry.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You need to collaborate with people. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I guess you don't if you're like just in a cupboard with a microphone and an audio recorder. But
Yeah.
like, eventually you will need to collaborate in some kind of means.
Yeah.
Which will, you know, it most likely will make it better.
Yeah,
Like,
100%. Like
collaborate.
it's like, and even then you just never know if you never try it as well. Like,
Exactly.
are you restricting yourself by not working with other people? You might be able to create some of the best stuff on your own, which is awesome. But like, could you even create even slightly cooler stuff with someone else? I don't know. You're restricting yourself if you don't allow yourself to collaborate. So yeah.
What do you do if you're in, let's say you're just having an outrageous day, you're having the best day, yeah, but you have a studio session with Mooney,
Yep.
and you're writing a really sad song. What do you do? Where do you get out? Do you have to get out of that mindset? Do you have to get into a mindset for a specific song? So if you like Red,
Yeah.
you're sad as hell walking into the studio,
Yeah.
and they go, and you're like, you know, how do you get into that mindset? Do you have to get into the mindset, or do
Yeah.
you go, I'm turning up how I'm turning up, and that'll display itself in the art, or do you push, like how you say you go to those areas?
Yeah.
Let's say you could, like, for whatever reason, you can't go to the area, you just have to record in the studio.
Yeah.
Do you try as well to put yourself in that mindset?
That is a really good question. I know that's a lot of them, but this is a really, really good question because it's really specific
I was
to
getting
me.
nervous. You hadn't said it
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the last 5 questions. I was like,
Mate, you went on a
quality's
string of bad
dropped.
ones. Yeah.
yeah, I cut that out. Hey.
You picked it back up again. Yeah, it's a really good question because it's really specific to me as well. That so I know a lot of people that are really into acting, and a lot of people that are actors or like want to get into acting and stuff like that. And
Please give me their information.
and thinking about some of the stuff they told me. So like one of the things that they were saying is like method acting, which I'm sure everyone knows what it is, but you know, really getting into that character, just believing you're that character. I guess I probably maybe said that wrong because I'm not an actor or whatever. But
like, even if the character is a dickhead,
Yeah.
you have to be a dickhead.
yes,
And especially some people who stay in character, they're just
Yes.
a dickhead all of the time.
correct.
The entire time they're making the film.
Yeah.
Because they think it'll help with the film.
Yeah.
Their intentions is kind of positive, even though they're just being a dickhead for like a couple months.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's basically method acting.
And so a lot of people really look down on method acting and stuff because they're like, you know, it's not healthy. It's bad for your mind and stuff as well because you're just like pushing yourself to be someone you're not. I don't know the specifics of it. Like I'm saying, this is just my interpretation of it. But I actually was so fascinated by that idea that I was like, man, I need to study different acting techniques. And I'm not an actor, I can't act, but I can do the acting exercises and kind of have my own take on the acting like mentality and stuff like that. And I found it so interesting that maybe 2022 I started doing it, and I don't know, like in my mind I was like, man, I invented this or whatever, which I definitely didn't. I just basically took method acting and put it into music, and a lot of the stuff I made I thought it was really awesome, but like I said, these are some of the songs where I was like, these are the songs that I was like, man, I love them, but other people were probably like, it's kind of cool. That there's songs that I love, but they're probably not like excellent or like putting on Spotify worthy songs or whatever. Did I put any of them out?
Surely slide them into my headphones if you've got them.
Oh, possibly, surely. But well, I guess the idea was like, like when I was writing this main story that I've been writing since I was like 15 or whatever, it's like a sci-fi thing, and there's a bunch of characters. And like I was saying to you, I really love the story element, and I think that I'm like good at writing characters, but not so good at writing dialogue. But the characters are like, I'm like, man, these characters are so hard that I've like looked at them and I'm like, how would I write a song if I was this character, or this character or something like that? And I've like tried to do these acting like exercises that people do when they're doing like method acting or getting into a character, and just doing them right before I write. And it's like really hard because it's like you can say you're doing it, but if you can tell when you're like, all right, I'm doing these exercises and I'm like in the zone, I'm gonna write it, and you're kind of like halfway there, you're like thinking about it, or you can tell when you're like, man, I really actually feel like this character, like I'm actually like in the zone, I'm kind of method acting while I'm writing.
Do your thoughts change?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely.
Christ,
like,
that's scary.
yeah. I was like, I don't know. It feels weird because, like, I don't know. Some people would definitely be able to do it like 10, 20 times better than me. I'm not a pro actor. I just like looked at these exercises and I was like so fascinated by it that I was like, yeah, they were just online. I knew someone who, I don't know, she had like the books and stuff like that, but I struggled to read, I can't lie, so I just basically was like,
as well.
I just pretty much, I just like remembered the names and stuff, and I was like, okay, this Stella Adler character, let's see what she's got going on. Okay, I can't remember the other names off the top of my head, but anyway, I was looking through them and I was like, let's see how these guys think acting should be done, or how to get into a character, and just trying that. And like I said, it's like, I can't just do that every time because I've tried to do it a bunch of times and just like failed. I'll be like, all right, cool, I'm in character now, when I know I'm actually not, and I'm like, I was a little bit off.
It has to be authentic.
Yeah, it has to be. So it's like, I haven't done it that many times, and I've tried it a bunch of times, but actually doing it, like, there's a big difference. So Ready to Go was one of them that I wrote in character, because I was like, I don't know, I just had to feel like I was like the goat for that song. 100%. I was like, man, I had to get into character. So that one was one of them that I really liked, and it sounded more like, I changed some of the lyrics, so it's like later on, so I'm like, all right, it sounds more like commercial kind of thing and stuff. But yeah, I think I forgot what the original question was, but
with what you just said, with how you've been able to get into that zone sometimes, but sometimes not.
Yes.
Have you noticed the parameters or the environment that you have been able to get in to those mindsets compared to when you've tried to and it hasn't worked? Do you know the variables?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question.
That's another one in the counter. Sure.
Yeah, I'll take it back. Oh, that's tricky. Yeah, I mean, I'd say so. I definitely feel like, are you more saying like, can I tell when I'm not in?
Yeah, like you would know when you're not being able to. So let's say let's say you try to do it 10 times.
Yep.
And only 3 times you were able to get into that ready to go character, for example.
Yeah.
Do you know what was the reason why you only got able to do it 3 times and not the other 7 times? Like, was the environment different? Were you around people sometimes and sometimes you weren't? Were you outside? Were you inside?
Wow.
Were you deep already into the creative process for that specific day? Have you already been working for it an hour, or did you just one day just wake up, you roll out of bed and you go, all right, let's go, ready to go? Like, have you noticed the variables?
Wow. I think the only way I can answer that question is to be fully honest and say, I don't know, but I really want to know. So by the next time we have a podcast,
100%.
I will have the answer. I'm going to test it, and I'm going to be like, all right, let's test it in different environments, in different headspaces, in different, like, ways that I'm already in it, like, have already started writing and then I'm doing it. I'm actually really curious because I think that's an excellent answer. And if I know that, I'm going to be way more powerful at doing it because I'll be like,
Literally.
all right, why did I even bother trying doing this if it's daytime? I already know I can only do it at nighttime, So it's like...
It's honestly the point of this podcast.
Yeah.
Is for creatives to help each other be better creatively, but have a better creative production and consistency.
Yeah.
And just reaching more potential of their own potential.
Yep.
So which is the point of the podcast.
Yep.
Like with this podcast. So like, yeah, I mean, I'm obviously going to try, what you said, go to those different environments and try it there. Like, and yeah, we just come back with the answer,
Yeah.
Just let everyone know.
Yeah.
I'm asking people to come on the podcast. I'm asking questions. I've already done it. I already asked you a couple of these questions, but then we had to say, all right, let's keep for the podcast. Even if these cameras and lights weren't here, I'd still be asking you the same things. You know what I mean? Like, I am very interested in the answers because I will use those answers to improve my creative process.
Yeah.
And if people listening to this podcast can do the same, then that's perfect. That's the point. That's the point in trying to make everyone be able to improve on their creative process.
Yeah.
So if we figure out these answers or to these questions, like you trying to figure out how to get into that specific mindset, I'll test going to different locations and seeing how it works, and we come back with the answers, and then boom,
Yeah.
everyone will be better. Yeah.
Let's do it.
We're our own
Let's
lab
do it.
rats. We're our own lab rats with this. 100%.
Yeah. We'll be the
gotta-
guinea pigs.
Has
so,
to be done.
Yeah.
Has to be done.
We can set other people up for success with that. So, because I guess, everyone's, of course, got their own, like, ways of creating and stuff. Like, some people be like, I'm just not going to do that acting thing, or I'm just not going to go to things, but to locations that I know are going to bring something out of me. But for people that
else.
Exactly, and for people that are looking to experiment in different ways to create art, I think that's going to be really useful knowledge and just see what's worked for other people. And like even me hearing about how your habits and stuff was really insightful for me, because I'm like,
man.
I didn't think about it like that. So, and even I changed my answer before you answered and after you answered, I was like, I guess I do have some. So I think it's just good. Like creatives should be having conversations like this and finding out, I don't know, ways to experiment and push their art in a different way.
Oh no, I appreciate that. I'll definitely clip that up for the trailer.
That's excellent.
Message approved by Wesley Black. I don't have any specific questions off the top of the dome. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about specifically? Anywhere people can listen to your music or any socials you want to throw out? You got any songs coming out or shows coming up? Any,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so I guess best way would be Wesley Black TV on Instagram, but that's my name on everything, so TikTok, SoundCloud, all that kind of stuff like that. But Instagram I'll probably be most active with. Otherwise, Wesley Black on Spotify is me if you want to listen. Got some very cool stuff coming out. But make sure to check me out on Instagram because that's where I'll be posting announcements and stuff. So I will be doing some big and cool shows coming up. First show's with Mushroom, which is really exciting, but haven't announced it yet. We'll just be waiting
till
till
exclusive for the show?
Well, I actually don't know yet the specifics, but it will be on Instagram 100%. But yeah, putting that together. So if you guys are keen to see me live, and some of the songs put into a live setting with a band and stuff like that, definitely be sure to check me out there.
100%. And I'll leave a link to all of Wesley's socials in the description for the YouTube video.
100%. Appreciate that.
100%. I'm a fan. Like, for real. Listen to the songs. It's good. And for real good. Like,
you're too kind.
I'll tell you, I was listening to the latest one, Fall For You, all day. Can't wait to hear it live.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, I really appreciate you coming on the show, Wesley. It's been outrageous.
Oh,
it's been
thank
an outrageous
you.
episode. I think we'll call it there.
No, thank you very much for having me. I
Appreciate
felt
it,
very at home, but I also felt very pushed out of my boundaries and stuff. And I'm like, I really got to think about stuff. So it was honestly a great experience.
We'll do it again soon.
I'm keen
100%.
for that.